You can follow me on any of the listed social media, and you can read my manga over on Pixiv. If you'd like to support me, then please consider subbing to my Patreon. Thank you. Hopefully we can get that done. We'll find out. But let's just get right into it. So I'm just going to grab a soft eraser here and my favorite shading brush. And I've got a reference up of this weapon. Looks like it just kind of gets darker away from the hilt. I'll kind of do that. I pick an even darker color down here. Something like that. Then we'll do all these like glowing parts here before I start detailing some of that glow onto the sword itself. This way I can kind of conceptualize what it's doing a little bit better. But first I'll just add kind of a little streak here. Oops. Gotta undo that, I forgot to clip it to the layer. There we go. And then, I guess some of them get a little bit darker as it gets further away as well, so you can kind of add some darker tones here. Like so. And then, now I gotta add some actual like glow colors, so I think I'll go for an orange here. We're just gonna have to mess with it till we get the overall look that we want. Might not end up perfect. Especially when working with like color dodge layers and add layers, it can be kind of jarring at first. So you just kind of soften it as needed. You can even lower the opacity of the layer a little bit if you want. We'll do something like that. Then with an add layer, I'll just grab this super bright color here and add just like a little highlight here. There we go. So now I'll go back to this. Okay, so I think I'll just use a super light airbrush here. Just kind of add a little bit of a glow here. Nothing crazy. Probably lower the opacity here. There we go. Just a little eraser here. Something like that. And then over it, I will add a little glow. I'm not going to do anything too crazy here. I don't want it to look messy or anything. But just adding a little detail like this. Just trying to mess with it until I get the overall look that I want. I need to change the color a little bit too. Get a little bit more of a red in it. I think I'll darken it just a little bit too. There we go. And it's not just like this yellow color. I'll lower the opacity on that as well. Probably lower this one a little bit more because I kind of like that red color popping through a little bit better. So we'll just have a little mix of the two. And then just making sure that I like the look of these, because it looks like in the reference photo here, some of these little tail ends of these yellow markers almost just become the same color as the blade itself. So I might over top just with a lighting, just sort of darken it a bit more. I need a bigger brush. There we go. Something like that. There we go. Let's see here. Just don't know if that kind of fades too softly into the dark color. Probably is fine. I don't know if maybe I want to add this this little streak here and make it come down a little bit further. It might look kind of nice. I'll do it on a separate layer though, just in case it goes awry. It's just like with any of our other steps too. It's like using lots and lots of layers to get the look that you want can be really helpful, especially when you're like adding like a glow and stuff, because really easy to go overboard, and then it can be a pain because you just basically have to get rid of the layer and start over. Just use multiple layers to get the overall look that you want. Then if you overdo any of them, it's really not that big of a deal. So you can just either hide it or try again, lower the opacity or something. Okay, so I think we'll call that good for now. I do think I want to add like a little texture to the sword though. I'm just gonna kind of use a small brush here and just kind of etch in some little airbrush lines here, just so that way it doesn't look like it's quite so blended in with itself. It kind of, I don't know, adds a little bit more character to it, makes it look a little more interesting. So again, looking at the weapon, it's got like a, like the edge of it is kind of highlighted, and I don't have this weapon in the game, so I can't pull it up to see if it's because that's just like the blade of it is that color, or if it's just the lighting detail from the game. That part I don't really know. So I think for now we'll just kind of leave it, and we'll come back to this later if it looks too out of place. So we'll do these rocks next. Go ahead, grab this little sand texture here. We'll kind of start working on making it bleed over. So I'm trying to leave some spots where the sand is a little bit, has a more definitive edge, and then some others where it kind of just blends in nicely. Just because I don't want it to be boring looking. I don't want it all to be like airbrushed and blended in. I want there to actually be some harder edges to it as well. Something like that. And then I guess now we can figure out the shading, although a lot of these shadows are also going to be going over the sand, you know, for example, because she's going over everything. So we might not worry about the shadows right now, so I think we'll just keep kind of working on this. I'll add some texture to this. And these are just, this little flat rock texture thing that I've got is, I believe, a brush I made. And then I've got a second one that I'll use that somebody else made. Oops, flat ground texture, there we go. I should undo that. There we go. So I'm just kind of clicking this in with my mouse because if I do that, some of them are a little, they have like a lower opacity, so it kind of helps to blend it in a little bit nicer. Let's do that. And then I'll do the same here. There we go. And up here, make this a little bit smaller. There we go. And then we'll work on these edges, which can probably be done with this brush. I'll have some darker parts to it right here. There we go. And then I guess I should finish that, because otherwise I'd have to go back and select that same color. So in all these little edge areas, I'll just add in this slight shadow. There we go. Like that. Okay. There we go. Now I just need to add some highlight here. Oops. Forgot that all of this is on one layer, so got a little goofy with it. And we'll blend this a little bit better here in a second. But for right now, I'm just trying to get the colors in. Sorry, I'm still coughing. I've been working on this project for a couple of days now, just because it's been taking me a lot longer than I thought it would, having to like talk through it and stuff. Although I'm pretty quiet today, so I guess there's no excuses. Today I should be going at full pace, but still it's gonna take me a while. Yeah, I pretty much just rolled out of bed and started working on this, so if I'm a little quiet in this part, that's the reason why. Not there. But yeah, I was hoping this stupid cough would be gone by the time I was working on these little tutorials and walkthrough things, but it just will not go away, so a little bit frustrating. Makes it hard to want to talk all the time too, because that's it's what aggravates my lungs right now, so pretty dumb. Okay, looks like we didn't add any of the textures up here. That's very fun. So we'll just add that in now. Darken this a little bit. Yeah, and I will admit, I am not the greatest when it comes to rendering like rocks and stuff. It's something I need to practice more. I really don't have a method that I personally like. So it's just, I always feel like they look a little bland. So we're just kind of working on it until it looks acceptable, but Truth be told, this is not a strong suit of mine, so it probably won't end up looking exactly how I want it to, but something I definitely need to practice more. Okay, so now should be able to do a multiply layer. Probably use my wire brush. What the heck? Why is that not doing anything? Okay, genuinely confused. What is going on? Got all that. Oh yeah, there we go. My eraser, because we're doing that detailed work. Anyways, because doing all that detailed work with my eraser, so it ended up being the exact same size as this brush. So sitting there trying to erase stuff that didn't exist, I was like, why is my shadow not appearing? So we're gonna add some of this, a little darker spot here. And just like when we're shading our characters and stuff, it's okay to go over the overall edge that we want, because we'll fight it back and get exactly what we want in a second. But for now, we're just trying to get our shadow in, and then we'll work on it from there. Do something like this. And then into this crack here. There we go. In fact, I'll just shade that entire part right there. We'll just have to fight it back a bit with an eraser. Okay, let's see here. Is that all of them? Yes. Okay, so I am going to use my pressure eraser. So this is just a soft eraser that gets harder with the more pressure I push with. So I can keep it super light and soft and just kind of gradually erase things, or I can just push and just get a definitive edge like that. So I'm just gonna kind of do that in some areas here, keeping it nice and light. Keeping it a little bit harder of an edge where I kind of want some light following the little crags in this section. There we go. Need to fill in this pixel here. Like that. Okay, and we'll come over here, grab this eraser again. There we go. Do something like that. Now make it real small and kind of capture some of these edges a little bit, like so. Should probably do the same over here. Just didn't think to do that while I was over on this part. And again, a lot of this, definitely, I recommend trying to find some really good like reference photos for, you know, like rocks and ground and stuff like that. Truth be told, I don't have enough of those at the moment. I need to just probably take some time today, honestly, to just sit down and get a bunch of good references to work off of. Because that way you can just kind of see the rendering that other people have managed to achieve with things like this. And you can try to just work your way backwards from there and figure out how to get a similar method. You know, not trying to just copy them completely, but if you don't do that, you just end up kind of problem solving as you go, which isn't the end of the world. But it can just mean that, like, right now I'm just kind of doing stuff and hoping it looks good when it's not. So, because again, I don't really have a tried and true method for this at the moment. So, but I need to establish one. Although that's partially why I had a bunch of rocks and stuff in the background for this fan art, because it's gonna force me to have to work on that. So it's not my strong suit. I definitely prefer just drawing the characters. I'm not really big into backgrounds. I like drawing like forests and things like that. It's something I do enjoy. I still need to get better at drawing, like, texturing tree trunks and stuff like that, but I don't know, I like drawing scenes of nature like that, but I don't know, drawing, like, I like the look of ruins and stuff. It's just I don't draw that enough to really have a solid foundation to work off of. So this will be good practice for me. It'll be nice too if you're watching, maybe you're a beginner, you can kind of see how to work through in real time, just kind of messing with it till you get the texture you want. Kind of seeing some of the steps and methods I use to achieve that. So right now I'm just using my hard shadow airbrush here. So it's basically just a slightly modified version of the hard airbrush that pretty much every program should come with. So you should have access to it, and then I just increased the hardness and brush density. And again, I'm just trying to make like these little dark spots and leave some little tiny hues of lights just to kind of give it a texture to show that it kind of has like little cracks and crags in it and stuff. So I want something like that. And then same as last time, we'll just go with a multiply layer with our airbrush here and just right down in here do this. Something like that. Oh yes, and I don't even think I mentioned this, but I just, for whatever reason, I was sitting here, I was waiting to click record, and I was like, well, how am I going to texture the these like stone tilings? And so instead of just clicking record and starting, I just, for whatever reason, was like, I'll just figure that out right now. And then I got the look I wanted and just was like, yeah, I'm not going to redo it, so I'm just going to click record. So, sorry I did not record getting the texture of these stone tiles. I basically, though, when we were getting the textures for the little spots over here like this, I just used the same method. So that's why it's got a little texture to it. And so far for me, definitely when I'm making these, you know, sort of more stone details and stuff like that, I definitely find that just using some brushes like that, making some custom brushes that can add just a texture is really nice, because then you can work off from there to add some shadows or add some lighting, but just giving it a little bit of character and texturing it a little bit, it looks a lot better than if it's just, you know, blank. Like if it just was like this, it's like, yeah, you can add some lighting and stuff and some shadows and it wouldn't look bad, but at least with some texture, it just kind of adds another level of detail to it that I think looks really nice. Okay, so from there, got this. Okay, I am flashing this layer on and off and not seeing absolutely anything. That's the line art. That's the cross hatching. So what is this? I think it's just an empty layer. Huh. Okay. Oh well, I mean, if I can't see what it is, then it's probably just an empty layer, not really doing anything. So we'll just go with it for now, I guess. So for now, we can add, I think just right over the line art here, I'll add a multiply layer. Go all the way to the black, and again, we can change this as need be. But just to add a little tiny shadow here at our cracks here where the stone tiles meet. I don't want to go overboard with it. Also need to make my softening eraser a little bit bigger. I just want it to be ever so slight. Something like that. And then we'll see what this texture looks like if I make a new multiply layer and have just a little one like that. We're going to have like a pretty neutral lighting for this picture. In a lot of the caves in Sumeru and stuff, they kind of open up like at the top, like there'll be like a light source from above. And so that's basically what we're going to be doing. But we do have this sword beside us that also glows, so a lot of that detail though will be added in a bit, just because that glow and some of these shadows are going to be going over the sand as well. And so because the sand is over these stones, there's no real reason for me to add a hard definitive shadow over one at a time. However, we can add a multiply layer right here for these tufts of grass. So I will just grab some grass like so, and what we'll do is we'll just make them up here, and then in theory should be able to just skew this thing with edit. And try to get it to line up here. Like that, and then we'll make it a bit larger. There we go. And then, using my lasso, just get rid of this. And then the soft eraser, just lighten it a little bit. There we go. And then looks like we've got some more tufts over here. So we will do the same thing. And I'll just make it's like you could copy it if you wanted and move it over, but this one's got some larger grass pieces in it too, so we'll kind of show that there. And then we'll just do the same thing. This way you don't have to just with individual brush strokes be sketching it in. Just save some time. Okay, skew, do this, do this. copy and paste it over here a little bit. Then I can connect it. Then we'll get rid of this section here. Oops. Yeah, I guess we just need to get rid of this. And then this area here is just gonna, we'll just black it out. Our grass is gonna be doing something like that. And then we'll lighten this whole thing. There we go. Okay. So, I think from there we'll move on to the sand. Okay, so grab this. And again, probably want to just add a slight texture to this. So I think I'll just do it the same that I did for the rocks, just a little more sparsely, because it really doesn't need to be super exaggerated and extreme. Oops. Grab this. So not all of the sand needs to have this texture to it. And we're going to make it pretty fine. Do that and then soften it. I need my eraser. So just lowering the opacity here so it's not quite as jarring. Because the sand can have different like texture looks to it and stuff, but it's usually just if it's wet or if light's hitting it in one area as opposed to others. So we'll have one spot here where the light is hitting it differently. So we'll have some little bright spots here and we'll just kind of blend these. We'll do this. Add it up here as well. Maybe a little bit under this tuft. And it's a fine line between not overdoing it and not adding enough detail. So come over here. It's a little blur brush, which again, I downloaded this off the internet. I believe I got it from a YouTube channel. So if you go to, I think it's Some Normal Artist is the YouTube channel, and there should be a video they made with custom brushes, and they just had it linked in there. So if you want to get the same like little blur brush, which I would recommend, I actually use this a lot, so I'm glad I found that video. And they also have some good tutorials too, so if you're looking for more tutorials, you could go over there and check them out. But I really like that brush, so I use it quite a bit. So now I'll just soften this up just a little bit, just to blend it in a little bit more, like that. And again, I don't want to overwork the sand. I definitely don't want to make it look too airbrushed either. So we'll leave that there. I think I should go back a couple. There we go. Just so that one has a little bit more of a definitive edge. I'll do that, and then we'll do a multiply layer and just add some of these grass little shadows that they might have poking up. Grab this little darker color though. Oops. What the heck? Okay. For a second there I thought I actually changed one of these layers to a multiply layer, which would have been clown move of the century. Luckily I did not. But I did get worried for a second. It's like, wait a minute. But I just had added a layer between them. So let's do this. Guess we need to go a little bit smaller for this one up here. And we can go a little bit bigger here. Oh yeah, except this is over the grass there, so we'll do this. some of these have little like dirt mounds and stuff on them, so I can't really add the right texture. Okay, then we'll see if I can kind of get a little bit more shadow in here. Again, I don't want to overdo it and make it look super like airbrushed, but just adding little tiny subtle shadows here where our grass patches are, just like that. And then I guess now it's the rock switch. This is the part I am not looking forward to, because again, as I keep saying, I am not the greatest at rendering rocks and making them look good. I usually overdo it, so we are going to attempt not to overdo the rocks here. But first, I need to add a texture to work off of. So we'll do this, like so. Kind of come in here and soften some of it. Then we'll use this brush here with some darker sections. Just kind of have a mix of airbrush and hard edges. Especially just in these sections that are behind the other rocks, just kind of get it shaded out. And pretty much, I'm just trying to imagine it's you know, a rock face. It's gonna have some little like creeks and crags and stuff in it where the light's not really gonna shine through. So all I'm trying to do is just kind of show that through these little tiny shadows. And then I'll do the same with a very ever so slightly brighter brush and just show areas where more light is poking through. There we go. And I'm going to try not to overwork the rocks in this one, because I feel like that's the thing that I mess up, is I just tend to overwork it. Okay, so now we will take a more defined hard brush here and just have some edges that are a lot harder, because right now it's just a little too airy. I'll just include stuff like this. Lower the opacity of my light layer here. You can slightly lower the opacity of my dark one. Maybe not that much though. I think I'll just leave it where it was. Why not? Leave it like that. And then, oh yeah, this rock. I did change the base color of these super dark rocks. They were just way too dark originally. So, same thing. We'll use this rock texture. Grab it like this. We can go a little bit smaller though. Well, I guess even smaller than that. And I guess what we could do is come over here, go real small, and just grab these areas here that the light would be shining on. Kind of highlight these. And again, just trying to think of these rocks as having many little faces and sections that would catch light, some others that would be more in the shadows, something like that. And then I'm just going to use a multiply layer with our brush here and just further accentuate some of these sections here. Use my hard brush too, just to get some more definitive edges. That. I'll even leave some little blank parts and pieces there too, so that way they can kind of shine through, as maybe there's a little bump there that can catch the light. Then I will have this here. There we go. And then come over here and do this rock wall. So again, this is just the method I have for right now. I definitely want to find a better way to do this in the future, just because it always ends up looking a little too airbrushed to me with this method, whereas I want my rocks to just have a little bit more hardness to them. So I think I could achieve that if I just used this tool and maybe made a couple other custom texture brushes. That'd probably help quite a lot. But for right now, this is what I've got going on. So I'll have a lighter spot here. And we'll kind of do this a similar thing over on this side. And then we can grab this darkened color. Do this. Just in some of these areas, just kind of blend it and then leave other areas a bit harder like that. And then we can shade, go to multiply layer, use this sort of in-betweener brush. And just behind these rocks here have a little bit more of a defined shadow. Give some of these a harder edge. Then I can use a large eraser, kind of fight back some of that. Then do the same over here. Oh, oops, wrong brush. So, and then I'll use this hard brush again, just to have some more definitive lines behind some of these rocks. Then soften up some of this. There we go. And then I do need to give this a more defined edge, just because it's kind of too hard to see against that rock wall behind it. So I'll do this. I also think I'll go ahead and darken up that wall behind it, because it's just kind of a weird color right now. Plus, it's further away and deeper into the cave, so it really should just be darkened a little bit. So I'll just add a multiply layer over it. Like so. There we go. It looks like we just have some little sand patches right there. We'll move on to these rocks. So I'll just keep texturing these. Do the same over here. And then I'll soften this. And then I'll go over it with the individual colors here. So I can get my, oops. So I can get my light sources. So just the faces of the rock that would be touching the light here. Just do this. Then I have another layer for the darker spots. Yeah, and I kind of click these in because every now and then with the mouse clicks, it's just, there's kind of like a randomness to it, but it'll have every now and then it'll put in a piece of color that has just a lowered opacity, so it kind of helps texture it a little bit nicer, to be honest. And then from there, we can add in our little shadows with our brush here. A little too big there. Do something like this. Then maybe have a little tiny one over here. I don't know. And it could be too that with like these smaller rocks in the background, I just have a tendency to overwork them, so they're just a little too textured, so they look a little loud. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I need to just practice and try to find a better method, because these rocks just don't super fit in to me. So I will probably end up adding in some like sand kind of being blown by the wind, so it'll kind of not fully cover, but it'll kind of break up some of these rocks, so they'll be a little less noticeable, you know. So, but like I said, it just takes practice, and I'll probably try to find some tutorials that I myself can watch. But that's why I'm not really doing this as like a tutorial, like, here, this is how you draw and render a rock, because it's just not something I'm very good at right now. I just can't really get the overall look that I want. But I am at least trying. So if you do not try and practice the things you're bad at, then you're just never really going to get better at it at all. Or just better at art in general. If you're only practicing the things you're good at and confident with, you're not going to teach yourself how to problem solve in the moment and get past humps. So for this one, I'm not going to bother with the overall rock texture. I'll just go ahead and just kind of by hand just scratch this in like that, just texture it myself. And then add little tiny layer for some light. Like that, and then we can add multiply for the shadow. Have, again, some more definitive hard edges, and then some areas that are a little less defined. Okay, and then do this. So if I remember right, this should have kind of like a pointed edge like this, kind of in layers, and then it'll have a, because it's almost like a carapace, so it's kind of like in little sections here. So I should be able to just do this to get that look. And then add a multiply layer down here just to kind of shade it, followed by a more defined edge here at the bottom. Then I'll kind of bring it up into this little nook here as well, and here. And then I will add a little tiny bright spot where maybe the light is really catching it. Like so. I guess we'll do these rocks next. Okay, so grab this, and really for some of these brushes I have, they are multicolor, so they're making use of both of these little colors down here. So this little, rock texture multicolor, it basically is just using both. So because right now this is just kind of the under layer, just to kind of add some character to my little rocks, and then we'll add like the lighting and stuff afterwards, like what we've been doing, but just kind of letting you know what's going on with that. This is just adding a little bit of texture to the rock itself, like so. Then I can come in here, and then I'll just select this bottom color here, because then for whatever reason this doesn't let that multicolor thing come into play. So I can just add some actual shadows. Well, not necessarily shadows, but just fill in some of these darker areas here. Same with here. Like so. Then I'll just grab this lighter color here and kind of add it, these little tops of the rocks here where the light would be hitting. Then I can even make a smaller version here and have some little spots where the face kind of comes down like that. Okay, so from there, use this little blending tool. I want to go overboard, I want to still leave some hard edges. Kind of soften that. And then grab our fire brush here on a multiply layer and just kind of add in these shadows. moving around a little bit. There we go. Then we'll add some harder lines for the shadows in a second. So now we'll grab this. That. Again, same as with our other ones here, I don't care if there's a couple of little spots in the shadows that are still brightened, just because it's like the rock is going to have kind of a uneven surface. There's going to be little bumps and stuff that be poking out from that area and could still catch the light. So do something like that. We'll grab this. Every now and then when you use the little lasso tool to make these rocks and stuff, they'll leave like a little tiny like tail like that. So there's a couple of other rocks that have that as well, but we'll get rid of them when we get there, which I think they're next. Never mind, this other little pupa thing is. Okay, so I will just do the same thing that I did with the last one, just kind of by hand. What the heck? Okay, why are they on the same layer? Interesting. Okay, well, it's not the end of the world, it's just not ideal. Must not have been paying attention when I made that. So we'll just kind of work around it. Do that there. Make a little light spot. Yeah, and these things, if I remember right, they're kind of in like a little net. It almost looks like a nest, but it's made out of stone. Again, I guess I could always just go in the game and figure out exactly what I'm looking at, but I'm not really in the mood. This project's already taken long enough. I don't want to have to go boot up the game, find these, take a screenshot, and then move on. I'd rather just go off pure memory. Okay, now we can do these. So I guess, honestly, I'll just start with the shadow this time. And now we've got to work around that. So there'll probably be some little edits we're going to have to do. But we'll start with the shadow. And then I'll bring it up into its little pieces. I'll bring this around more, like so, and I will add our lighter spot. Can't go very large for this. There we go. And then multiply. Just have some little lines in here, as well as around the back. Just kind of scratch it in. Again, if I didn't get these two on the same layer, this would be a lot easier, but just kind of work around it here. Luckily, it shouldn't be noticeable in the finished piece that those ones aren't necessarily perfect, but still a bit frustrating. And I'll even use this multiply layer with a little G pen and add in like a little crack. Just to add a little more character to it. There we go. This coffee is finally kicking in, so hopefully it brings me back from the brink. We'll never know until we get there, though. Yeah, I think part of my issue, too, when it comes to the backgrounds is just that because it's not really where my passion lies, it's really hard to just sit down and be like, yay, I'm gonna draw rocks today, you know? But I know that I could really elevate my art a lot if I wasn't waffling on rocks. So I should probably just suck it up and do it. It would definitely improve my art. Just like one of the things that just hasn't really gotten better in a while, so I need to just find a good method I like, that's repeatable, that's relatively simple. So I think part of my issue too is I just overcomplicate it and overthink it, and then it ends up too messy looking. Especially for some of these things in the distance, like they don't need to be super ultra detailed. But yeah, because I think some of the rocks don't look too bad, some look better than the others, but they're not all great. But once I figure out a good technique for the rocks, then I will gladly make a video on how to do that, because it might be helpful to some people out there. But for right now, I am in no position to do that, because if I don't like my rock texturing abilities, then I probably shouldn't be teaching people how to do it. So I don't want to sabotage people here. Leave that there. Okay, so just doing the same exact things that we've been doing on these other little pupa things. Just adding a little lighter color here. And then we can come in with our multiply layer. Kind of catch it like this. Then we'll use a little tiny one. Sketch this in. There we go. Okay, so I think I will go back down here though and add in like a hard shadow here. Like that. And then this, I'm just going to extend this rock. Oops. Not with my airbrush. This way it'll meet the ground here. It just kind of got goofy looking over there. And then same with this. I don't want it coming into like this little tiny point. I will even have a little bump there. Kind of help hide that pupa thing. And then remember that this got weird looking over here, so we'll just get rid of that. Do that. There. We are almost done with this. Again, I don't know why, but it always surprises me. I will say this: the last time I did something like this was with a Nezuko fan art, and I drew her rather simply, so it wasn't like a big project by any means. I don't recall if I recorded it and made it into like a full fan art process video, but I mean that project as a whole couldn't have taken me very long at all. It was a very simple version of Nezuko that I ended up drawing. So I definitely, for this one, I wanted to push it a little bit further, so it was a little more interesting to look at. Had a little bit trickier pose, and with a character with a lot more details going on. I did not think it was going to become like an 8-part video though, so hopefully that doesn't just kill it on arrival. But oh well, is what it is. I've come this far, so I'm gonna finish it. But I don't know. I feel like if this doesn't really get any views, then I probably won't be making more like fan art process things. I think eventually, if my channel grows enough to where there's enough of you that would want to see like join in on like a live stream, then I think that would be fun to do rather than just chilling here talking to my screen. You know, it's kind of feels like something a psycho would do, but I guess that's YouTube for you. But you know, I wouldn't mind doing this as more of like a live stream, because then I can actually interact with chat and it'd be a little bit more enjoyable. People be a bit more entertained, because then I could just put the VOD up somewhere. Or, well, it'd be on my YouTube channel, but you know what I mean. But I don't know. I feel like with this, it's just pretty easy for me to get into like a lull where I'm just focusing on what I'm doing, so I'm not really adding anything interesting to it. I'm just kind of drawing on it, you know. It's not I don't feel like it's the greatest content I've ever produced, but I'm still gonna finish it just in case there's like 1 or 2 people that want to watch and power through it. If that's one of you, then thank you. But you never know, it could also surprise me, because the videos that I think are gonna perform well get no views, and then the videos I just kind of reluctantly upload because like, yeah, I don't think this is too great, end up being some of my most viewed. So it's a weird game. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of like an art project. If you're working on one early, sometimes you don't like the way it's turning out, so it's easy to want to just scrap it. But I find that if you just sit down, work on it, and try to finish it, it usually always ends up better than you thought it was going to be. And I guess sometimes a YouTube video is like that. It's just every now and then you just have something that you think is just not going to do well, and it ends up being pretty good. So it's like, okay, weird. Don't know what people want to see, I guess. But definitely let me know in the comments if there's, you know, videos and stuff that you'd like tutorial videos or fan art requests. They don't have to be these walkthroughs or anything, but they could be just regular fan arts. I usually do it in batches, so if there's a series, whether it's an anime, a manga, a video game you like, you can just let me know down in the comments, and I'll look into it, and if I like the character designs and they seem fun and interesting, then I'll probably end up doing a fan art batch from it eventually. Because right now, I think after this is like my last fan art in my little Genshin backlog. So I think after this, I'm gonna do some Wuthering Waves fan art, because I just started playing that game. I'm not gonna go back into the story. For anybody who's been keeping up with the series here, I've beaten that like a dead horse, so we're just gonna ignore that for now. If you're curious, go watch the other videos, because I've pretty much mentioned it every time. I do like the game. I did end up finally getting Yinlin. I'm very happy. She's very cool. She's at level 40 because I don't have materials to level her up anymore. Very sad. So she does negative damage, but she is a lot of fun. So once she's finished being built, then that'll be a lot of fun. I'm using her with my Kelcharo. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But I've been using them together, which is a lot of fun. Although my Zani team is probably one of my favorite teams to play with. So I just got her paired with Spectral Rover. So I'm kind of playing them as like a hybrid Zani hyper carry with a little bit of quick swapping through some of her big attacks with my Spectral Rover, because you can just keep her little points. You can keep filling up her little burst points that way. Or I guess not bursts, they're liberation. Sorry. I've been playing Genshin way longer than I've been playing this game, so I constantly get the terminologies mixed up, so I apologize. But no, I've been having a lot of fun with it. So if I had a crazy amount of pulls on me, then maybe I'd consider getting Phoebe, but I like Phoebe, but truth be told, I feel like if I had more pulls, I would just get Zani's weapon because I actually really enjoy playing her with Spectral Rover. So I know her, like, ceiling is higher with Phoebe, but I personally just enjoy the playstyle with Spectral Rover, so I just don't think I need Phoebe for my Zani. But I might eventually get Phoebe, but there's some other characters I want more that now I just have to grind up pulls to save for, so I'm gonna try to do that over the weekend. Okay, let's see. I think I'm going to use this little tool and kind of blend some of this. Again, I want to leave some of it as a more defined hard edge, and then I want some of it to kind of smooth out. Something like that. Okay, so we've got the shadows underneath the, and I guess the weapon. So we'll just pop this in first. Multiply. First we'll go kind of with the large brush. Do that. Do this. Make a defined hard line there. Like that. I don't want to go too intense with this shadow just because this thing is kind of glowing, but it'd have just a little bit poking out from here. So we'll just kind of back it up a little bit. There we go. And then for Dehya, this would go over everything. I do think I want to kind of use a softening eraser on some of these grass blades, make them a little, just tiny bit transparent so they're not quite so jarring. Like that. Okay, so I guess we can do this glow next. Go over this. Well, no, it wouldn't go under it. That's right, because I already added a glow over top of that, so I just need basically a glow to slightly capture, or slightly be bouncing off the ground here. So let's see, we'll go with a slightly dark orange on a color dodge layer. Like that. Go with like a red. Like that. And lower the opacity. Lower it a bit more. And then use an eraser kind of fight it back a little bit. So it won't be like hyper noticeable, but I don't really want it to be jarring of a glow because it's not like the brightest thing on planet Earth here. Okay, let's see. Man. Sorry to keep coughing here. So then I'll do a multiply layer over all of this. Grab this. I guess I can just use this and just fill this in. So, and we'll mess with this, make it look nicer. Typically, if I'm really trying to blend everything nicely, I'll do it all of the shadow just on their own separate layer, so it's like darkening specifically with the colors I want. But for this, since it's over top of so many different things, it'll just save some time by just doing a shadow like this. It doesn't look bad as long as you do it right. So do that. I guess actually before I do that, let me use this brush and just have a little spot here. This, so it's not just like a super hard definitive shadow, but there's a little bit of a brush here. Have some areas a little bit more blended. Look at that, and then just lower the opacity a bit, like 60. Have some erasing there. Kind of, guess I can bring it up a little bit more. Oops. There we go. There. Okay. So I think I do want to add some like sand blowing in the background, and I'll probably do some touch-ups on these back rocks a little bit. That's just going to be tedious and boring, and this is already almost an hour and 20 minutes long. So we will call it good here. Probably, unfortunately, going to have like 2 parts to actually finish it, because I don't think I'm going to be able to render Dehya in one video. It's probably going to take me a couple hours to do, so either way, if you've made it this far and you plan to keep watching the next parts and stuff, then thank you for that. I will see you in the next one.